There's not many stories out there that make me want to jump in my van and drive 480 miles, but this one I honestly did. I just got to town, and today we're going to talk about Jonathan Richardson, this creep right here, a face that you probably will never forget. We're going to talk about the ridiculous case and the circumstances that has led to his name being put in the news. And we're going to talk about his victim. We're all going to start from zero. I'm going to tell you the story of this creeping, weird person. We're going to go back to September 12th of 2001. Jonathan Richardson just got married only a few months ago, and he has an 11-month-old stepdaughter. Her name is Faith Lee, 11 months old. So on that evening, the woman that he just married and the mother of that baby, she goes to work. I guess this guy is a stay-at-home dad. She goes to work and he invites over a couple of his friends. So they're hanging out at the residence where the couple lived. And his friends, according to their recollection of that night, Jonathan, he's always been kind of a weird person. You know, just those weird people that you know. But this night, he's acting more weird than how normally he acts. They don't know why, but he's playing his music really loud. Not like loud, like it's a little too loud and your neighbor complains. Like, no, like super loud, really loud. So another thing that they're noticing that he's acting a little bit strange is that he got a new tattoo on his arm of his stepdaughter, Faith, that he carved with a knife in his own arm, and it's dripping blood. Now, after his friends leave, Jonathan goes next door to a neighbor's house, one of these neighbors, and he says, "Hey, can you call 911? My baby is not moving, not breathing, not doing anything." So they come to 1111 North 3rd Street, which used to be in this lot right here. So the paramedics come to this place right here, and they see this baby. The baby is like a purple kind of bluish hue. So they immediately begin CPR. They get the baby, they bring her in the ambulance, and they head over to the closest hospital from this neighborhood. Now, as the scene behind me is lit up with flashing lights and probably at least 2 or 3 cop cars in front of it, the police officers, they start interviewing Jonathan. So they ask him, well, what happened? Now, normally when a baby is not moving, not breathing, even if the baby is not yours, it's still going to be a rather upsetting thing that's taken place. But according to the police, Jonathan is unemotional, detached, doesn't really seem to be too terribly interested in the baby's well-being. And so they asked him what happened, and he said, "Oh, I came into the room and the baby was not breathing." But then about 15 minutes later, another cop asked him, "Hey, what happened?" And his story changed. It went from the baby wasn't moving or breathing to, no, the baby was fine, but the baby was fussy. So in his own words, not to quote him, but basically what he said was the baby was acting fussier than usual. So in an attempt to calm the baby down or to get her to stop crying, he starts to like throw her up in the air, like kind of how you like when you play with a kid, you throw him up in the air and you catch him. So he said he's doing that. And then it went from throwing up in the air, He's throwing her up in the air, and she's still crying. And this guy's really trying to get this baby to stop freaking crying already. So he starts shaking the baby in what you would call a violent manner. And he said that as he was shaking her, her head started kind of like a bobblehead doll, what you would describe it. It just was going back and forth in what he would say, he used the term a rough manner. So as he's telling the police how he basically caused the baby to go to the hospital, the mother comes home, sees what's going on. She's freaking out. They take the baby to the hospital, and the very next day, early morning hours, the baby died. So the coroner's office, they take the baby for autopsy, and they determined that the baby was murdered. This is a homicide. The baby was asphyxiated via manual strangulation. So they immediately arrest Jonathan Richardson, and they book him into the county jail for first-degree murder. Now, as he's in the jail, signs of mental illness, they start seeing that something's wrong with this guy. This guy is a nutcase. And he basically said one day, as he's awaiting to go to court, he starts screaming, and in an effort to calm him down, the guards of the jailhouse officials, they subdue him, and he's screaming, "I killed the little effing bee. I killed the effing little bee, so what?" And he goes to trial. He's found guilty of her murder, and he's sentenced to 55 years in state prison. Indiana is one of those states that if you're going to commit a heinous crime or a series of crimes, it would be not a state that you would want to commit a lot of crimes, because they're going to give you a lot of hard time in Indiana. So this story would be sadly forgotten about, and it would just be in the archives of the internet, except for one thing. This guy, well, let me explain. So at this point now in the story, it's 2020, and Jonathan Richardson, he's been in prison now for about 18 years or so. And if you guys don't know this, but baby killers in prison, they have it pretty rough. They're not having a lot of friends, and they're looked down upon. They're a part of the pack of the lowest of the low. And Richardson has mental illness, like I've talked about before. Now, a prison psychologist determines that he has anxiety and depression. Oh, and by the way, he also has gender dysphoria. Yes, that is correct. He has gender dysphoria. He was supposed to be a woman, but he was born in a man's body, and now he's trapped in that very body. We can get into the talks of that subject in another video, perhaps. So this guy cannot tolerate his male body. He can't stand having this thing on him, if you will. Now, the only cure to this problem that he has is not to just prescribe him medication or give him some kind of counseling. It's to have gender-reaffirming surgery. Yeah, he wants to have it snipped off and then go from there, whatever consists in that surgery. So he wants to sue the Indiana Department of Corrections for the right to get the surgery. Oh, and by the way, have them pay it, which would cost about $150,000. However, he doesn't have the money to file the paperwork with the courts to sue. It costs $36.55. He just doesn't have the money. But he knows who does. The ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union. That organization has, in my opinion, over the last 20 years, has been involved in some pretty stupid cases such as this. I can't use the term necessary evil with this organization because what started out over 100 years ago as being a good thing has metamorphosized into silly cases such as this. Basically, the ACLU's job is to defend your right to not only exist, but your right to free speech and whatever rights that we have in the Bill of Rights and in the Constitution. The ACLU, they have even defended people from the Ku Klux Klan. Now, some of you might say, oh, that's terrible, that's terrible. Not really. Because even though you disagree with these weird people that wear these stupid costumes, who I have never seen before in my entire life, but apparently they're still around, even though you disagree with their rhetoric, they must be allowed to free speech. They must be allowed to, congregate in whatever town and have their stupid parade or whatever. You have to afford them these rights. So even though the ACLU may not agree with them, of course, they're there to fight even for people that they disagree with. So in this case, as stupid as I think it is, they're defending this guy's right for gender reaffirming care. In the summer of 2023, the ACLU files a lawsuit against the Indiana Department of Corrections for the right for Jonathan Richardson, who, by the way, now is going by the name of Autumn Cordione or something along those lines. We're just going to call him Jonathan. So this Jonathan, very, very, very weird person, weird baby murderer. Now he has the ACLU on his side and they file a lawsuit. Not only with the prison system here in Indiana, but they also sued the prison chaplain, Tony Gray. He's the chaplain of the Branchville Correctional Facility. That's where this creep is currently incarcerated at. So he's suing the chaplain because a while back, the chaplain told Jonathan, or maybe he called him Autumn, whatever. He says, hey, we know you're a practicing devout Muslim now all of a sudden, but you're not allowed to wear your hijab outside of your prison cell. It's kind of like a safety thing, Now, Jonathan tells him, well, why can't I wear my hijab? I'm trying to be pure of mind, body, and spirit in the event that I meet the great Prophet Muhammad. I don't know if the Prophet Muhammad is into the gender reassignment surgery thing, whatever the case might be. He must wear the hijab so he could be modest. It must cover his head and his ears. Now, personally, I would be all for him wearing a hijab because nobody in that prison, even though they've committed a various amount of crimes, deserves to have to see that hideous face every day. So the chaplain tells Jonathan, he said, hey, Johnny, listen, last year, according to your file, you were a Wiccan. Yeah, you were a practicing witch, and we let you do your weird witch stuff nonsense in this place, and now you're telling us that now you're a devout Muslim, right? And he's like, yeah, well, I was a Muslim today. Maybe I'm Wiccan yesterday. Maybe I'll be Jewish tomorrow. Who knows? Whenever the wind blows is when this guy is going to come up with his more zany nonsense to clog up the court system here in Indiana with his bull crap. this baby killer. Okay, so they're suing the Indiana state for the hijab thing and for the gender reassignment surgery thing. According to the ACLU's propaganda, their court filing states, quote, "At this point, gender-affirming surgery is necessary so that her physical identity can be aligned with her gender identity, and so her gender dysphoria can be eliminated." So in this case, this weirdo who is seeking this surgery wants to have an orchectomy or orchectomy. Didn't check that word before I started doing the video, but I'm just going to keep on going. I really don't want to tell you what that is, but it involves removing one's testicles. And then, well, after that, he needs a vaginoplasty. Now, if I have to tell you what that is, I think it's better that you not know. I've seen pictures of the surgery. You know, on those nights when you can't sleep, that is something that you never, ever want to see in your life. That I can tell you. So according to the judge who was overseeing this case, Judge Richard Young. What's up, Richard Young, if you're watching this by any chance? He found for the plaintiff, which is the creep weirdo. So he agrees with the ACLU's lawsuit in stating that this guy should have gender-affirming surgery. He says, quote, "I agreed with the argument the ACLU presented," and he filed a granting a preliminary injunction stating that he can go ahead with the surgery. So he's basically saying, and without, the legalese gobbledygook, he's basically saying that if the prison system doesn't pay for his sex reassignment surgery, it amounts to a cruel and unusual punishment. And by prohibiting him getting the surgery, it's unconstitutional. Quote, "By prohibiting the surgery, regardless of medical need, the statute mandates deliberate indifference to a serious medical need and therefore violates the 8th Amendment. Oh, and the 14th Amendment as well. Additionally, the statute discriminates against plaintiff and other transgender prisoners in violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution." So just last month, as the recording of this video, he cited for the weird person and the ACLU. Now, I'm not sure if I don't want to say the Attorney General of Indiana or somebody up there, if they're able to file an appeal. I'm not a lawyer. But I do want to tell you this, that regardless of the nonsense in this case, talking about a person that has a severe mental illness, that there was a victim in this case, and this is the final resting place of Faith Lee. This is the baby that he strangled to death. This is the baby that was not given a chance at life because this creep, mentally disturbed lunatic murdered her. And because of the wackadoos at the ACLU, they're defending this creep. So you taxpayers, people that live in Indiana, from what I can see online, unless there's a reversal, you're going to be paying for this monster's surgery. And any other transgender person that is currently incarcerated, this is going to be the case that they look to when they start suing these prisons. And let me tell you, if this goes through and he's able to get that surgery, let me tell you, you're going to be having a lot of the courts, they're going to be clogged up with cases such as this right here, this poor baby's murder. Trust me when I say that I am a believer in free speech. As long as you're not hurting people, I think that you should be allowed to do whatever you want, express yourself however you want, worship whatever religion that you want. However, when you're incarcerated, there's a reason why you're there, and you're there because you couldn't abide by the laws of modern day society. Whatever taxpayer in whatever states, they shouldn't be having to pay for mentally ill people's nonsense surgeries. Hey, listen, if you are on the outside and you want to have a whatever ectomy and cut it off, hey, listen, as barbaric as that surgery is, I stand by the right for you to do so. However horrible that might be, that's your decision as an adult, not a child, as an adult, a clear-headed, level-minded adult should make. And I think that in these surgeries, I do believe that before it's done, from what I understand, that they are evaluated psychologically. Hey, you like it, I love it. That's all I gotta say. Rest in peace to that poor baby, didn't get a chance at life. And let's hope that there's some kind of a reversal in this matter, because if there's not, like I said, this is going to be an ongoing problem in our nation, and it's only going to get worse. As I always say, where does it end? Leave a comment below. Tell me what you think about this story. I'm heading back to Ohio, but before I stop there, I have a very interesting grave to visit. So one more stop in Indiana, one more stop before we head back to Ohio. I got plenty of stories in Ohio to come. As my buddy Mothman says, never go full Ohio. And there's a lot of stories of people going full Ohio. Catch up with you in the next video. Peace out.